and Terry isn't here. And unfortunately, Catherine is unable to join us today. So we're just running a little bit short today, but I think we can still impart information and talk about what we talked about at the peer meeting, just to keep things moving. So generally, I would be calling the meeting to order and appointing Ray as the chair, or asking for nominations and all that kind of good stuff. But seeing that we are short on quorum, the only thing that we had to decide on was the adoption of minutes. And then if anything was to come forward from the committee that would require action, then that would require a motion. But in the event that we don't have quorum, we can go forward with the delegation and talk about the items under business, as well as the information items. And then if anything needs to be decided, if Terry is able to join us near the end, we would have quorum then, and we can go from there. So is everybody good with that? Perfect. So we might as well start with Bill's delegation, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, thanks. And thanks again, Katie. Looks like you're going to fire things up. We'll start on slide number 3. It's to avoid maybe some obsolete things from the past. A couple of sentences that are no longer pertinent. So anyway, great. So I'm Bill Stewart. I'm the executive director at the Thousand Islands Gananoque Chamber of Commerce. And I'd like to thank everybody for inviting me to the Economic Development Committee, a committee I was once part of and still like to keep tabs on. And it's always important to speak to our municipal partners, as well as those vested into volunteer committees that do good work throughout the Thousand Islands, particularly in TLTI. Primarily, the Chamber of Commerce, in its many incarnations through the years, really has to keep on top of things as far as changing. And one of the main things that we have to do is change with the environment, and particularly over the last 22 months, there's been huge shifts and major impacts into one of the major sectors in our area. And of course, I refer to tourism. And something that's unique to this chamber and many similar chambers of this size is that we are designated as the marketing organization for tourism in the region. And really what this means simply is that we promote the region and try to attract as many visitors as possible to benefit the various operators, accommodation partners, as well as all the hospitality throughout the region. And of course, as you know, hospitality is one of the 3 main pillars that TLTI has put forward in its strat plan over the last couple of years. And really what we've done through the years, as many of you know, as other chambers do, and tourism operations and DMOs, you put out a visitor guide. Now, primarily the visitor guide is in paper form and has had modifications to a digital platform over the years as well. However, our board of directors here at the chamber over the past year decided to go in a completely different direction. And it's going to be quite progressive, we think. And of course, as we say, change is good, but we'll have its bumps. So as we go 100% digital, basically unveiling a visitor guide, arrival guide website. And really the advantages of this is that it's no longer just seasonal. And it can also be kind of referred to as an economic development / relocation guide. So attract the visitors as we would as a regular DMO, but also promote the fact that you can make this a place to invest in your family and perhaps entrepreneurship and starting new business here in the TLTI region and Gananoque in the town as well. So some of the benefits also is that any information within this thinly disguised advertorial will be the ability to change information at the drop of a hat. So in the past, when many digital sites come out open, there may be a few things to clean up. And of course, if you do it in a print version, it's there forever until you throw it away or no longer have it. So for instance, a wrong phone number will be corrected within a second if need be. Changes to an operator's hours, for instance, or perhaps something they're promoting at that particular time can be changed at any time too. So we're really excited as we work with our partner One Idea on this initiative. It will be rolled out hopefully within the next 4 to 5 weeks. And at that point, of course, there will be a combined media release from ourselves and our partners to promote this. And the company that, as I said, One Idea that's doing this has had quite a bit of success and some good feedback through the entire province, country, and around the world in doing these things. And as I refer to world, with us being on the web now with this, it will attract more people to the world famous Thousand Islands, but really attract them from everywhere. You name it. It's not just being sent out to your destination Mississaugas or your destination Albertas. It's going to be everywhere. So we're quite excited about that. So again, destination marketing organization, this is really the number one tool that we as a chamber do to legitimize that title. And it's our job to promote the region, and then it's everybody else's job throughout the chamber network and our partners to market it and attract people and to fulfill all the accommodations throughout the area. Next slide, please, Katie. So again, I just referred to the partners. We have many of them, and I'm sure many of you know them. TLTI is one of our strongest partners. We combined, of course, as you may know in the past, with Shop Local campaigns, various community events, and of course, this past weekend when we had the business showcase, which, as Katie will say, they did a lot of the lifting as they provided most of the tables for the event. As far as we get back to the tourism side of things, tie up Thousand Islands accommodation partners who we work very closely with are well established throughout Gananoque and the Thousand Islands. And of course, we both work together with RT09. And as many of you know, these regional tourism operations are throughout the province. And the one that we're part of, RT09, is quite large. When you think about it, it's really, though, I would say, defined by its position on the St. Lawrence. And it stretches all the way starting at the west around Trenton, so the Bay of Quinte, and goes all the way to the Quebec border to include Cornwall. So there's a lot of diversity there. Sometimes you really have to stand up and promote your region like we do to say, we're quite different in what we offer and what we can attract and keep people here, as opposed to, for instance, somewhere to the north a little bit, or perhaps somebody to the west in Kingston who have a whole different outlook on things. Of course, they have more resources, but they're not really essentially the Thousand Islands, whereas we can legitimately say we are the Thousand Islands because that is our backyard. And of course, we deal a lot with the town of Gananoque, and of course, the town deals a lot with TLTI and numerous things such as funding, grants, working with the province, and really making sure that the businesses, and particularly the tourism side, get as many benefits as they need. And of course, over the last almost 2 years, it's been, again, the most heavily impacted sector, I would say, in the entire economy. Now, as we move more towards business, since we are the advocate and voice of business for all our voluntary members, we rely on a lot of resources from the Ontario Chamber of Commerce and the Canadian Chamber of Commerce. But also, it's really important that we remain individual. So one thing I always want to stress is that, yeah, we're part of the larger network. It's great, but we never want to become a MIC chamber. We want to really keep our individuality and make sure that, for instance, if there's an issue that comes up and it maybe is issued from the provincial umbrella organization, that is pertinent to our region, that we may not really be interested in promoting something to our members that's really just focused on the north or maybe in the GTHA. Next slide, please. So how do we market our region? I think I've kind of already pointed that out as far as the switch to digital marketing really full on. But at the same time, as you can see here, some of the stats at the bottom, the impacts of the previous 2 years really had to make us think in a different way, whether it was engaging with the unveiling of the Digital Main Street program to our members throughout the region, or also reducing some of the burden in advertising that people had to pay. For instance, the visitor guide was completely free, quite rightly so, back in 2020. And even so, it went up half price last year. We still had a pretty big impact with the numbers you can see there and the impressions to the website. Next slide, please. And again, another real thing that benefits this financial stability of the chamber is events. Without events, there's no way we can survive just on our members' fees. Again, as a voluntary organization, remember, it's not like a BIA where you're provincially legislated, where you have to pay if you're in a particular municipal region. So we have to provide good events, real good programs, and a return on investment that can be legitimized, because if we don't have something to offer, then we're not going to exist. So one of the main things we have is a great diversity, I believe. And as you can see in the photo, we promote everything with our partners throughout the years, whether it's the Lansdowne Fair, whether it's the Turkey Fair, which is great to see that it's coming back this year, and also things like Rib Fest and Gananoque, Pumpkin Gan Fest, Pumpkin Festival. It's things that in the past have been really, really successful. And I think people are really going to flock back to this year, because we've even seen it in some of the larger events throughout the province. People are really just dying to get out of the house, get away from these Zoom meetings, and meet face to face in person, and just, shake hands again and say hello. We had a nice invitation only tourism operator mixer last week at the Thousand Islands Playhouse, and we had folks from the township there too. And it was just great to hear the feedback. People happy to commiserate again, swap stories about what they're doing to promote themselves this coming year, and all the businesses that are hoping to have a somewhat return to normal, I think, starting right now. Next, please. So this is really, although it can be boring to many, it's the meat and potatoes of what holds a chamber together. So yeah, membership's important, events are important, networking is important, but advocacy, really the voice of business, the voice of our members, to help them, to assist them where there might be issues, whether they're having to deal with municipal things that may be impacting them. Maybe it's a provincial piece of policy or a law that's maybe perceived as hindering them, or something Canadian-wide where, for instance, tax changes or things that can impact a business that nobody really could foresee that comes out of a particular budget or a piece of legislation. That's where my job is, to really comb over everything possible, from council meetings to provincial budgets, which is right around the corner again, federal budgets, which just happened. Find out exactly how it hits our small businesses, our grassroots people, the people that we all know, and the people throughout the region. And sometimes it's those unforeseen circumstances or hidden gems in a budget that can really impact a business, and whether it wants to grow, or maybe there are certain hoops they may have to jump through. But something else I want to really point out is that it's really the point of a chamber too, to be a broker. And that means listening to everybody, because often, as many of you'll know, there can sometimes be bylaws, policy, things that maybe are misunderstood. And for instance, if a certain business perceives that as a problem, they will maybe jump to conclusions. So they'll say, well, that's not fair. How come I can't do this? Or why am I not allowed to do that? And the worst thing that can happen often is that it goes public, or somebody gets upset and says something. So when a chamber steps in, what they can do is act as a broker. So they can bring together the two parties, for instance, in a quiet setting, hopefully, sometimes on Zoom, have them sit down and really understand what the reality is. And that could be really beneficial. And if you can somehow understand each other and maybe better understand what a policy does, and maybe where somebody's gone wrong, or where maybe somebody's provided some misinformation, that's when you're successful. And it's the little things that add up, because if you can do that, then you're perceived as somebody that can assist you moving forward. And again, word of mouth can kind of necessitate that as a good point of a business organization that just doesn't say things, but does things. And I think a chamber has to be seen to be doing something about something. I'll give an example. Many of you have heard about the CFIB. Now, they do a lot of good things as far as exposing perhaps issues that aren't great for business. But I've always said in the past, you can always keep this confidential. CFIB is great at coming in and pounding on the table with their fist and saying, this is a terrible policy. Small businesses are going to really suffer because of this. The issue with that often is, though, CFIB doesn't always come up with a solution. What we try to do as a chamber, whether it's grassroots, small chamber, larger chamber, or provincial network, is try to put together, as I said, a viable resolution to something where maybe options come to the table. So we could really come out against something, whether in the past it was the Ontario Retirement Pension Plan or the College of Trades, and say, yeah, they're not really conducive to progress, even if they're set up to mean well. What you want to do is come up with viable alternatives, whether it's a change in outlook or a change in how certain organizations and put their word out or operate. And that way you can provide different options so that you're not just saying something's bad. You're saying, well, it's maybe an impactful issue on the negative side, but here's something positive that might be able to assist. So the chamber movement, again, has learned through the years to try and do that and come up with I guess you could say, a more complementary solution to government. When government gets too big, we try to make it smaller in a good way. And I believe that's just about it. But really what I want to say first and foremost, again, is that we're not unique as a chamber in this region. Where we are a little different is the fact that we represent two municipalities that are very different. TLTI, although it's similar again, and we all know each other, has its own issues, has its own bylaws, has its own region, has its own business makeup. But those things are going to change too, as particularly as we move away from really an old steadfast industrial based area into a pure boutique / tourism region, which really is going to have to, I guess you could say, pivot with the future, but at the same time understand that there's more possibilities now than ever as we emerge stronger from the last 20 months with working together to make things better. So if anyone has any questions, that's pretty much my diatribe as it goes.
Do any of the committee members have any questions for Mr. Stewart? Go ahead, Ray.
Thank you, Bill. It's my impression that both the state of New York and the province of Ontario consider Thousand Islands their tourist areas. And I'm wondering if your group has any strategic ideas of how to market to these two groups independently, considering the barrier that the border provides with customs, immigration, passport control, currency, etc.
Yep. Yeah, well, that's a really good question. Timely as well. Thank you. Interestingly enough, we just met with our counterpart across the border about 2 weeks ago. He finally was able to come up face to face for the first time in a couple of years. And although they face some of the same issues, of course, you mentioned the border was kind of off kilter with how both of us mapped up moving ahead the last year or so. There's a really aggressive move now from down there, which is great to promote their region again and to be mutually beneficial to promote our region too, because really they were up here distributing massive amounts of promotional material again, which is great because we can't survive unless we have our friends from south of the border come back up again. And likewise, we'll also be collaborating with the coming digital relocation / arrival guide, as I've talked about, with them too. They're valuable partners. They're eager once again to hook up with us and market the entire region the same because, when I grew up, this is almost considered a borderless area because when you went across, especially to northern New York State, you just felt like you were still here other than the difference in exchange rate. But at the same time, that's hopefully going to disappear a little bit moving forward too. And again, there'll be more to come as things get unrolled.
So Ray, just to bookend your question. So your question regarding strategic marketing, I think that Thousand Islands Accommodation Partners, along with the Chamber, do a lot of global marketing, both North America based, but also everywhere else. From what I understand, that it's sort of gone more online with bloggers and individuals that are coming to showcase the area and then share it with their audience online. So it has shifted a lot from what Bill said, I believe, from the brochure that they would hand out at travel shows or travel agencies that would go to find ways to put bus tours and stuff up here, but it's more organic and people are getting impressions from the Thousand Islands just because of their affiliation with other businesses or other travelers. And so when you talk about strategic marketing, it's the whole game has changed. Would that be fair to say, Bill?
Yeah, definitely. And particularly our partners here in the building, they're doing a big job with that. Did it last year and be back in person at Rendezvous at the end of May as well. It's in Toronto to really reach out strategically to those worldwide markets.
Any other questions for Bill in regards to the Chamber or the DMO? I don't see anybody's hand up. So Thank you very much, Bill, for coming and giving that information over to the members of the committee. And also thank you to the chamber and for their work that they've done over a very difficult period of time, trying to adapt. So
great. No, thank you. I wish we could do more. I always wish we could do more, right? And that's one of the most frustrating things over the last 2 years, where it's been like, it's like 12 months of here's how we can help, or here's how we thought we could help. and I think really the frustration and the difficulty for some of our members in having to apply for certain things the first start off was really, really hard to watch and difficult to hear. But I think we've gotten through most of that. There's more relief coming, which is great. And we'll be here to make sure that's all distributed. So thanks again, folks.
thanks, Bill.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Okay, so next on the agenda is the 2022 events directory. So I'll turn that back over to Katie Forrester, who's stepping in for Kim Goodman while she's on leave. And Katie can give us an update.
Thank you. So in the community and business services team, we've been doing a big roundup of all of the events that we can find happening not only in our township, but in the broader region as well. We've included the events directory in the package for you today. We're really encouraging event organizers where possible to add their events to our event calendar on our website. We're really trying to build that up as a resource. And from that is how we've created this directory. What I've provided here today is an internal version. We also have an external version that's printed in more of a rack card style material. We have one that includes May and June events, double-sided, and a second one with July and August events, and those will be printed and distributed. They'll be available at municipal facilities and visitor areas, points of interest, and we'll have lots of extras for any businesses that wanted to stock them as well. Some of the upcoming events that the municipality is hosting include a Touch a Truck event on May 17th in celebration of National Public Works Week. So that'll be hosted right here where you are at the municipal compound. We'll be having a quiet hour from 3 until 4 with limited lights and sounds. And the main event from 4 to 6. Families are welcome. It's a free event, and children will be invited to climb and explore all of the equipment that we have. We'll have our municipal fleet on display, and quite a number of our partners will be bringing equipment as well. We'll also be doing a charity barbecue with proceeds benefiting the Roll Aid Center Food Bank. In June, the municipality will be hosting a Seniors Expo in Lansdowne. This has been successfully held before, and brief break during COVID, and we're excited to see the return. So this year it'll take place on Tuesday, June 14th in the community building at 1 Jesse Street, and the event will take place from 2 until 8 p.m. We'll be having a variety of vendors on display, transportation will be available, and more details will be shared around mid-May. In August, we're hosting our Olg Recognition Event. Will take place at Kendricks Park in Lyndhurst. This will be an event for families, sort of a summer wrap-up, and that'll take place on August 27th. Any other event organizers or businesses who are hosting events, again, more than welcome to add your listing to our events calendar. It's free of charge, and from there, we share the events on social media. We include them in radio advertising and print materials where timing lines up. And happy to answer any questions.
Does anybody in the committee have any questions in regards to the directory? Okay, no hands are shooting up. So I'm very pleased to see this, mainly because it helps us be organized here at the township as well if there's needs for some of these events, and helps us make sure that they have any resources that they need from us in advance. And we're not double booking anybody if we're lending out tents or anything like that. So I know that that it will hopefully provide a little more centralized information for people. Do you have the information in regards to the wayfinding sign as well, Katie?
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
So this was an exciting project. It was grant-funded project through OMAFRA. We entered into this project in partnership with the town of Gananoque and township of Frontenac. We started out doing a bit of a needs assessment. We developed a plan. We developed actually a wide-reaching plan, but due to budget constraints, we only were able to accomplish about a third of it. This year, or through this round, we will see about 10 wayfinding posts added throughout the township at strategic intersections. They're all a cohesive design between all three townships. So as travelers go throughout the region, they'll see a similar style. Each post is adorned with directional blades pointing out libraries, Wi-Fi, parks, business areas, public washrooms, public docks, and tourist points of interest. To help with the costs and to allow us to do a few more, our internal operations department is undertaking some of the installation, and they will be manufactured. The posts and blades will be manufactured this summer by a local supplier. We'll start installing them in the fall, and we'll keep an eye out for other grant opportunities to keep going with the other phases of this project. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention and thank Corey at the town of Gananoque. He's really taken the lead on this project, and together, you know, we've been working really hard on this, and it'll be really great when we get to see them go into place.
Questions about the wayfinding signs? I think for my own interest, it would be great if we could possibly have a map or sign locations, like even like intersections, so that as they appear, that we can keep an eye peeled for them. So just in a further report, maybe add where those sign locations would be so that everybody can keep an eye out for them.
Certainly, I would be happy to add that to, or bring that to the next meeting.
Perfect. So we'll move on to the regional tourism destination strategy, and that would be Ms. Venditti.
Thank you. This is just an update for information purposes. So the county has announced that they have retained a consulting firm to prepare their first tourism destination strategy and action plan. Right now in April, they're doing community partner and stakeholder engagements. They've had meetings with CAOs and mayors, and there's a session that Katie and I will both be attending this Friday morning to go over input from staff at the local municipalities. So the plan for this is that in May, there's going to be more community partner and stakeholder consultations. And then in June, they're going to start developing and finalizing their final recommendations. So I just wanted to make sure that the committee is aware of that, and we will let you know going forward. I did ask Anne about if there would be a delegation or if we would be able to get somebody to come and speak to the committee. I didn't really get a clear answer on that. So I will continue to pursue that because I identified to her that it's directly in line with our strategic priorities and that it's something that I would like her to present to the committee. So I'll continue to try to achieve that.
Any questions in regards to this? Go ahead, Ray.
It seems to me that the herd of cats is getting even further spread out here. Is it just me, or is this becoming more fractionalized as we go along, this whole tourism business?
I'm going to take a stab at that. So, you know, not wanting to commandeer the meeting or end up creating a public debate here, but as we just heard, we have a DMO through the Thousand Islands Chamber that has worked extremely hard over, I believe it was 13 years ago that the DMO and the DMP were established in the town of Gananoque. The DMP, the Destination Marketing Partner, Thousand Islands Accommodation Partners, were able to, I'm just giving you some background so you have some context. We're able to get a number of businesses to voluntarily give them 3% or 4% of their, it's kind of like when you go to Niagara Falls and they put the extra charge. But really it's a credit to Gord Brown, who was the one who sort of pushed this strategy to get the boat line to charge a premium, as well as the accommodations. I believe Glen House Resort paid as well. There was a number of people that paid into the pot to market this area. So part of having a DMO and a DMP means that they can both leverage the same pots of dollars to even have a bigger pot to work from. And in doing that, they created the Thousand Islands brand abroad. And Catherine Christensen was the previous director at Thousand Islands Accommodation Partners and traveled all over the world to travel shows and booked busloads of individuals from all over the world, Germany, Sweden, Australia, everywhere, to come here to see the world famous Thousand Islands. So why is this important? Well, the county has created another destination marketing organization for the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville, and I believe the name of it is Thousand Islands Rideau Waterway. And so I'll be honest, I had some challenges with that, mainly because you're looking at another destination marketing organization with a similar name. Ours is Thousand Islands Gananoque. And they received funding from the RTO 9 Regional Tourism Organization for Region 9. They received, I believe, 125 or 150,000 to create this regional strategy. So what they're trying to do, and I've been part of 2 sessions now, one last Friday and one this morning, in regards to creating a brand so that they can market the larger geographical area. So you're not far off when you're talking about the herd of cats spreading out. It's a very difficult task. And I must say the consultants that they've hired are extremely competent. These are people who have been in the tourism marketing business for years, decades. And I believe the head consultant was Tourism Canada. He was the cheese in Ottawa, and then they moved it out to Vancouver. He's got a team of individuals, of consultants, one from Nashville, one from, I forget where else, but they have a very deep seated knowledge in tourism and how to market. So the whole purpose of this strategy session is to create a brand that somehow ties us all together, which is no small task, in my opinion. We heard this morning from a number of stakeholders who some were newer to the area, which is kind of interesting. So they have a different view on things versus some of the people who've been here and who've built their businesses from the ground up with their own blood, sweat, tears, and nail marks on the doors type thing. But that one of the critiques that was talked about today was, comparing us to, say, Prince Edward County from a tourism point of view, and how we don't have an identity, and that brings us all together. And Prince Edward County has done such a great job of bringing people together. Part of our challenges remain that our destinations are sort of Gananoque, Brockville, and then you've got the west ports of the world, and then Rideau Lakes being, many lakes. I want to say there's 37 lakes that they have, and it's quite a number, and they have a number of lake associations that they are dealing with as well. But yet they don't have any hotels. They don't have accommodations. So there's that sort of marketing, which makes it hard to market if there's no place for people to stay per se. Yeah, we have more islands. So, but then you put the Rideau Canal, a World Heritage Site, which has been left to sort of its own devices. So I think the main drive for this is to try to create more of a marketing piece, more so for the northern part of the United Counties. Not to say that it doesn't encompass all of us, but we already have done a really great job here in the Gananoque Thousand Islands area. My biggest concern is that duplication of effort is just a waste of money. So I don't have a clear picture on how we're going to avoid that or how that's going to work. But what I do know is that many people come to this area because of our municipality and our Thousand Islands, and then they leave. They don't necessarily stay in the area. So the goal is to get them here and keep them here and keep them spending money and patronizing our businesses. So it is early days. I remain on the committee as a member of county council. So I'm straddling a fence right now to see how it all goes, but I will endeavor to keep the committee up to date. Any sort of marketing is not going to be bad marketing, but as said before, I don't want to see us waste money for duplication of effort if we can avoid it at all costs. So that's where that is. Does anybody have any other questions? Oh, sorry, Vicky's got her hand up.
Yeah, no, as you kind of mentioned, I think one of the major issues is the duplication of funding or duplication of effort. But what I'm not quite clear on is whenever the funding that comes from, where does that fit in how, because I guess I say there's he who controls the purse can, direct things a certain way. But I'm just wondering where that falls out, because the sort of herding of cats, I agree, and I'm a little concerned about it. And certainly I'm here at a Lyndhurst, and we're small fish compared to other areas where if a marketing campaign was done that covered off bigger areas and didn't even address some of the needs here, it would probably continue to be funded because it's still having an effect, and then the small fish gets left behind. So just wondering how that sort of plays out.
So the initial funding that was received by the county for this particular strategy portion of it. So this is just about creating the strategy, not the necessarily the execution. So my assumption is that once they have a cohesive strategy with a branding moniker, then they would be going for additional grant funding dollars, either from the RTO9 or other fed or provincial dollars that are available. And I'm sure many of you might have seen, there's a ton of funding to support regional or to support tourism and businesses specifically. But that it has to be done in a cohesive way. And like you're saying, if depending on how they choose to market the area, the goal is to not leave any stone unturned, and no pun intended for the stone bridge. But that would be one of the highlights, to go and see the oldest bridge in Ontario, stop at, any of the businesses that are in the Lyndhurst area. And I would imagine they use the bridge alone for a lot of their marketing information. So I'm sure it would be part of the strategy. But when I think of the county as a whole, just so that everybody is clear, the county goes all the way to Edwardsburg Cardinal. So on the other side of Cardinal, north to North Grenville, Kemptville area, just to the edge of Ottawa, as well as Rideau Lakes at the edge of Perth, to over to Westport, and then down, and we border on Kingston for our own municipality. So that is a massive area to market, massive. And unfortunately, they were also talking, well, not unfortunately, but they were also talking about products, what they call products. So experiences or restaurants or retail outlets throughout the rural areas. So it's the problem or the challenge is that there might be one thing out down one road, but there might be 10 roads between that and the next thing type thing. And that's where there's a disconnect, because somebody might really specifically want to see this one thing on concession one, but there may not be another attraction until concession 10 and they're unaware of it. So depending on how that marketing is. But one of the things that we're trying to do here in the municipality, which it's not really on here as an item, is, and we talked about it at Peer, which is the Wanderer app. And the Wanderer app is meant to really direct people. If you're at point A, here's the next 3 or 4 places around you that you could go and see that might be of interest to you. And it automatically pops up. At least that's how I understand it to be. And with the marketing, the digital marketing strategy that goes with that is that while you might be interested in going to the Llama ranch to visit the animals there, and they have public tours and they have a shop on site, that might direct you to Wendy's Country Market and Furnace Falls Farm, because that's something else that you're interested in, and then into Sealy's Bay to see perhaps the chocolate place or something like that. So anyway, I think that we as an area with the town of Gananoque and this Wanderer app will actually create that cohesive, connected nature that we're looking for in a more organic way than what the county is trying to do. I just think it's a larger area, and that's the struggle there. And the other thing about the Wanderer app is that from a funding point of view, it's a lot less costly than, making sure there's rack cards for 10 different businesses within a 10-mile radius of that one business type thing. So, and everybody seems to have a phone in their hands. So it'll be up to the local producers or local retail outlets to drive them to that app, to have them see that map pop up with all the different places that they can go. So does that answer your question, Vicki?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions in regards to the regional tourism strategy? Okay, we'll go forward with the agricultural summit and in partnership with the Linter Sealy's Bay and District Chamber of Commerce. Katie, or do you want to speak to that?
Certainly. At our March meeting, we had some discussion here around the table about wanting to support our agriculture industry and our local farmers and rural businesses. But there was some discussion, around lack of timing and lack of resources. So after that meeting, I approached the Lyndhurst Sealy's Bay Chamber of Commerce to learn more about their event and how we might support them in their efforts. So the chamber is planning on hosting a rural business and agriculture expo. It will feature display booths, demonstrations, there'll be food samples, children activities, there's live entertainment all day. It's an indoor and outdoor event being hosted at Wendy's Country Market. For businesses to participate, if they're not a chamber member, it's a $35 fee, and they're to register by May 25th. The event itself is being held on Sunday, June 5th, from 11 a.m. until 4 p.m. It's just a drop-in event. They're collecting donations for the food bank, I believe, and we'll be continuing to follow up with the chamber to see how we can continue to support their efforts on this event.
So I'll ask for any questions from the committee, because I know this is one of the things that we had talked about doing ourselves, but rather than duplicating effort, I think us supporting them might be an option, or might be a better option for us in the long run. Go ahead, Marnie.
Thank you. Just for clarification, we weren't going to be doing this on our own. We've got money budgeted to contribute towards this. So I believe that there's $2,000 in our EDC budget to contribute and participate with the chamber and partner with the chamber.
Right. So, but I know that the previous agricultural summit was organized by the municipality. So rather than us do it, this is a better way as well, I think, to get more of the businesses in that area interested in showcasing their wares and their businesses in general. So, Vicki?
Yeah, so at this event then, is this where potentially then time would be committed, or that we'd have an opportunity, or someone I should say, to say, hey, this is the one draft, this is where we're going, and this is sort of how we'd like to, we see this maybe happening, soliciting what they're going to do. Is that an intention during this event?
I think that is a very good suggestion, and that's something that we could take to the, so Katie is part of the organizing on that, as well as McKenna Modler here at the township, and Amanda Trafford at the town of Gananoque. Perhaps if things are up and rolling at that point, it would be a good place to test things out. If to show people how to use it or how to get on it and fill in their information and all that kind of stuff. So perhaps that'd be a good suggestion for McKenna to attend, if possible. Katie?
Yes, I have already registered us to attend. I'm not entirely sure if we'll be at a point to be doing any demonstrations, but certainly we'll be able to share that this initiative is coming and the purpose behind it and sort of what to expect.
Yeah, because I think, sorry if I'm jumping in, but I think that one of the things may be as well that, especially in my mind, there's like agriculture and there's experience aspect to that. And some places may have, hey, I have products to sell, but not necessarily an idea yet of what that experience would be. And so I think you might want to try to give some momentum to that, and certainly showing how that could, I'll say, help bring people to the product, let them see sort of how some of the things are done, and then also where the app can fit in to support that is something that would be, I think, welcomed, but I just don't know if they even see it that way yet. And so, yeah, I suggest that maybe that's an approach.
I think it's a great idea, Vicki.
Any other comments or questions? Go ahead, Chris. Can you put down your microphone just so that people can hear you?
I don't know who I'm directing this question to, but one of the most successful events in our township is the Turkey Fair, and I'm wondering if this committee could perhaps seek some advice or liaise with the Turkey Fair as to how they have become so successful.
Katie, I'm not sure if you've had much contact with the Turkey Fair organizers yet, or if they're just in that beginning phase of ramping back up.
I haven't had a chance much to date, but I do have a meeting scheduled with the chair on Monday morning. So I look forward to learning more about the event and how it takes place and what's involved then.
So
Great.
Excellent.
Yep.
So mark your calendars, and I'm assuming all of this is on the events directory anyways, all of these, the agricultural summit and all that kind of stuff. So I'm writing down these dates furiously, but if it's on there, it's a little easier in one place. Any other questions in regards to the agricultural summit? Seeing none, we'll go on to the April 20th peer committee meeting follow-up discussion. So I'm not going to talk about members who did attend virtually or otherwise. If there was anything that they wanted to see come of it, there was some discussion in regards to allocating funds, which we can't make a motion today, but we can certainly have discussion about the chat that we had at that particular time, or any other questions that you may have in regards to the peer committee. Go ahead, Marty.
Thank you. If I could just add to that, we have had some feedback from some of the community groups that are on the peer committee. There was some discussion about banners at the meeting. And at this point, it appears that based on the feedback we've received, that there's no real desire for banners. We had one suggestion from Lansdowne with respect to a garage sale, but that wasn't something necessarily that we would contribute money towards. So we're still waiting to receive some more input as it relates to options and ideas. So hopefully we will have some more options and ideas to bring forward to the committee at the next meeting based on input from some of the peer groups and the information that we gave them. Since the meeting was only last week, they haven't had a long time to really consider it and come back to us with any ideas.
Go ahead, Ray.
Just to refresh myself, the abattoir study is not going ahead. Why?
Because there was one already done in a part of it was, I believe, because was one done in Frontenac County not too long ago or something. I'm confused here. I'll let Marnie.
Through you, we had the discussion as the committee that it's not as easy as just getting an abattoir. There's also the fact that there's a shortage of skilled trades. And so the Ontario Beef Farmers Association has been lobbying the government to look at ways to establish more abattoirs. They've also been lobbying the government, recognizing that there's the shortage of skilled labor, to have more programs involved in looking at the abattoirs in surrounding communities. We've identified that that they are trying to train their own staff right now in terms of the trades. So even if we could establish the need for an abattoir, which we know there is a need based on what we've heard, we don't know that there's the availability of labor or
Right,
a
so-
butcher that would actually want to come here and establish a practice.
We already knew the answer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and I think the other part of that conversation is that we could spend the money and still have nothing to show for it. Whereas if we were to reallocate the funds to something like the banners, as an example, and I misunderstood, well, maybe not misunderstood. I understood the banners to be the short ones that hang off the hangers on the telephone poles. So I don't know if that was, because when you spoke about the garage sale, I'm thinking about the one that stretches right across the street. Oh, it's the broad one. Okay. So hopefully the village groups get back to us with I know Rockport has the hardware for all of it and we're interested, but their banners that were in there were raggedy and old, so that they decided to take them down. So whether or not all of them will be interested, then I'm not sure, but if some were, that's a decision that perhaps, or a direction from the Economic Development Committee to council to allocate those funds to that program. That would be the recommendation. Or if there's something else that the committee sees that it would be better off to provide those funds or direct those funds to other events or something that would fit and be in line with the strategy that the committee has come forward with. So the feedback was loud and clear also at the peer committee regarding why is my mind blanking? The special events policy, that the policy itself is, while necessary, is the 30-page application is quite onerous, or that's some of the feedback that we got from that meeting. I know that Katie has been dealing with a couple of different groups, trying to work with them to simplify the process. It's not to say that the township has to stick with the 30-page application. Everything is fluid, and we can definitely cut it down if necessary, or if we find that there's duplication in it. And it's sort of a learning process for us as well. And it comes down to also risk for the municipality. But Katie, can you maybe share some feedback and some of the conversations that you've had with some groups?
Yes, so through you, for anyone who's unaware, the Township Council has passed a special events policy in April 2022. The Community and Business Services Department is the main point of contact on this policy. We're actually hosting an information session virtually this evening at 7 p.m. So if anybody from this committee was interested in attending, you could just send me an email and I'll get you the link. But basically the meat and potatoes is there's now a policy that applies in certain instances if there's any road closures or traffic control requirements, if your event involves fireworks, sound amplification before 8 a.m. or after 11 p.m., if you have any large tents or canopies larger than 60 meters squared, any temporary stages, bleachers, or structures of any kind, if there's the sale of food or alcohol to the general public, or if your event involves amusement rides, petting zoo or animals of some kind, or if there's a reasonable attendance expected of more than 50 people or 10 vehicles and trailers. It's not applicable to events taking place on private locations, private social gatherings that are off township property. Doesn't apply to events being organized by churches or school groups, and events that are being hosted at licensed event venues are not subject to this permit. And after our information session tonight, we have been building a page on our website. It will house all of this information and will include the recording from the information session tonight. We're hoping to have that webpage live by the end of this week. It will include additional information, some examples to assist in completing your application, and some links to some of those external permits that might be required from the health unit, for example, or the Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario. And the overall message is that we're here to help. If you're hosting an event in the township, we would love to see it be successful, and we would be happy to help you complete this application. It's not meant to hinder or take away from your events or even to cause additional work as part of the organizing. We just want to be aware of everything that's happening, provide support where we can, and just make sure that the attendee, the participants at the event, and the communities that are hosting the events, everyone's well-being is taken care of.
Thanks, Katie. Are there any other questions in regards to the peer committee meeting that we had? I just want to also say that we haven't had a peer committee meeting since last fall, perhaps September. So it's been a long time since the community groups had gotten together. It was really great to see everybody and to hear about these ongoing events that are starting to resurface. And I know it'll be a challenge because of volunteer fatigue, but especially with COVID fatigue as well on top of that. So my hope is that the locals will get out there and support it and give their time if possible to help organizing some of this stuff. Sometimes just taking a shift on a fair gate or working the parking lot to make sure that everybody has a place to park out at the Turkey Fair can go a long way for some of these groups. So, and we didn't have to have a debate about colors for flowers, because that's the other thing that we do in the peer committee quite a bit. But luckily, Trish sort of took the bull by the horns, and we got that done very succinctly. So as far as a staff update, Katie, do you want to do that, or Marnie, or does anybody, or I'm not sure if there's anything else the staff wants to add.
Minor points, just a general update to keep the group up to date. The township has entered into a visitor service agreement once again with the town of Gananoque. One exciting addition this year is we have been successful in a grant application as part of that agreement. We're going to see 2 mobile tourism ambassadors throughout the township all summer. They'll be promoting our local points of interest, our local businesses, and our municipal facilities. So you'll be able to see them. They'll have a little display, there'll be an identifiable clothing, and they'll be well trained to be out there talking to visitors and highlighting our services. We'll also be working closely with the Rockport Customs House volunteers and providing them some training once again, just keeping everyone informed and up to date. Our community grant program, the spring intake, it's now closed and going to council in May. But I just wanted to mention that we had a really good uptake. Nearly 20 applicants were applied to the program. We had a variety from volunteer groups, sports and social clubs. There's some applications for some public improvements. If you missed out on the spring intake, the fall intake is still available. It's going to open on Monday, July 4th, and the deadline for applications is September 1st. Also, our recreation guide was recently released. I believe it's hit doorsteps. We've already had some registrations and some feedback, so I hope everyone's gotten to take a look at that. If you haven't, it's available online on our website. The splash pad and our harbor and 7 of our day use parks are all scheduled to open on May 20th in time for the long weekend. Already we've been out cleaning up the parks, so they are, open for enjoyment, but until they officially open, we just ask anyone enjoying the parks, pack in and pack out with whatever you've brought. We're also working to open the washrooms a little bit earlier this year in Lyndhurst and Sealy's Bay, so those will be opening early May. The Sealy's Bay Harbor, right now the period is open for seasonal and returning boaters to book their slips. Very shortly, it will open up to any remaining slots for anybody else who wants in. On Bay Street at the harbor, there's some planned improvements this summer, including the storm culvert on Bay Street and repaving the the loading unloading parking lot right at the harbor. That'll be repaved and painted, marked with accessible parking spots. And as part of these improvements, we are continuing to review the rates at the harbor. They did go up this year. There was a slight increase, and we'll be continuing to evaluate that this year as we work towards maintaining fair market values with other marinas and docking opportunities in the area. All of our other municipal facilities are operating at full capacity. All of our meeting rooms, halls, pavilions, everything's open for rental. There was a lot of changes through COVID, reduced capacity, different restrictions. Of course, we'll follow whatever the rules of the day are, but right now everything's open at full capacity. Bookings can be received online or contact our office. And we're really looking forward to our summer students starting with the municipality in just a few weeks. With some of that extra help, it means that our operations department can take on a few extra projects. We talked about the work being done on Bay Street at the harbor, but there's also plans this year to install a viewing platform in Lyndhurst near the Jonas Street Park, connecting from Jonas Street over to Jones Falls Park. And we're installing, they're being built right now, accessible picnic tables. They'll be added to Centennial Park and Kendricks Park. We're also working to reinstate a gazebo at Centennial Park in Sealy's Bay, resurfacing a couple ball diamonds in our parks, and we have some new equipment in-house that's going to allow us redo some of our trail paths and networks. So this year we'll be focusing on the trails in Bateau Channel Park and in Centennial Park in Sealy's Bay. And we already talked about the special events policy. That was going to be the only other thing I touched on, but happy to answer any questions or open up to any other staff who have updates as well.
Are there any questions in regards to the update that Katie's just given?
Just thank you for your very thorough report. Thank you.
Yes, we're very excited, and who knew that washrooms would be as exciting as they are. But to have them open a few weeks early, it really does make a difference for the business owners and the locals that want to come and launch their boat, whether it be in Lyndhurst or Sealy's Bay. So we thank the staff for their attention to that and the push to get that done, because I know it makes for a bit of a scramble with the new staff for the summer. Any other things that staff want to add? Clerk, Director of Planning, nothing?
And just to provide a quick update with respect to building planning and bylaw enforcement. So we have a third building official on staff now. We are seeing a high volume of building permits right now that are already surpassing last year's numbers. So Building is continuing and moving ahead. Planning applications are at a high level. We have a contract planner starting on Monday to help offset some of our workload. There's been a number of policy projects and different projects that haven't advanced because we've been focusing on moving the development applications ahead. And then from a bylaw enforcement perspective, our bylaw enforcement officer is out there. We've received a number of complaints, concerns. We've got a number of open files of investigation. So we're actively looking at property standards and have a number of things going on. We did do one cleanup on a property today, and there will be more in the coming days.
Thank you. Not to preempt what's coming out with the, I think it's important that we let them know just as a committee in regards to the Airbnb report that's coming forward. So the clerk and the CAO and I approved the agenda to be published. It'll come out tomorrow. There is a comprehensive report that Marnie's staff, Marnie and her staff have put forward in regards to Airbnbs and potential policies and what we might do or not do in the future. But essentially there's going to be consultation with residents, both seasonal residents as well as year-round residents, to get a real handle on what we know that lots of cottagers have rented their properties out for a few weeks of summer to help cover costs and that sort of thing, which is different than ongoing Airbnb type rentals. Having said that, though, there is a steep cost that people may or may not know, and this is what will get discussed at Committee of the Whole on Monday night. But these are things that we have to take into account as a municipality if we're going to police those sorts of things, that it comes at a cost. But we want to make sure that we get all opinions in regards to this, not just one fraction of people, both sides of the coin. But the information that's coming forward is quite detailed and there's a lot to it. So we take it seriously and we want to make sure that everybody understands the issue and what potential enforcement would look like, as well as ongoing costs associated with that. So go ahead, Ray.
Will the committee be on the circulation list for that?
Well, it'll be posted in the agendas. The clerk says yes. So we'll go with the clerk and we'll make sure that the committee gets a copy of it for your review. I know it's been a long time coming, but as Marnie's indicated, our planning department has been, for lack of a better word, punched out for about 2 years. And I think you'd said that we're at the same number of applications that we had as of July last year already. So, and we're just at the end of April. So we're definitely dealing with a lot of applications, lots of paperwork. Super happy with our addition to our building department with another building inspector, a contractor who's well respected in the area, who's decided to semi-retire into a government position, which is great for us because he's a wealth of knowledge. And kind of hit the ground running. I know that they've been doing a lot of driving around. So just checking out existing building permits and those that are not permitted. So the other thing that we're going to be dealing with this fall is the septic. So
just for your information, there will be a report coming forward to council probably June or July, where we're doing a review of building permit fees for other municipalities and how they compare to ours. We'll be reviewing the staff complement of other similar municipalities that have taken on septic inspection. And we have to establish a rates and fees schedule for septic so that we have that in place when the download starts on September 1st. So we have to be prepared to take over the septic function. We also have to train our existing building inspectors. 2 of them are already qualified, but need a refresher on septic inspection. And the 3rd needs to be qualified in septic inspection so that we'll be up and running.
Is this new builds or existing as well?
Any maintenance inspections, it's the entire septic function is coming to the township. So it also involves commenting on applications for development, if there's adequate area for septic, if the septic's appropriately sized, and looking at applications for new lots to ensure that there is suitable area for septic. So it involves quite a bit.
Is this going to, our homeowners in this township, is our septic going to be inspected every whatever?
So there's two different things. There's the septic function under the building code. Then there's also the septic reinspection program that the township established. The septic reinspection program had been put on hold because of resourcing challenges at the health unit level, as well as COVID over the last 2 years. In terms of moving the reinspection program forward, at this point, we really have to focus on getting the septic function up and working, and then figure out how we move ahead with reinspection.
Thank you.
Very good question, though, and I think that there are some pros and cons to having the septic inspection here. But the pro will be is that it'll be a bit of a more of a one-stop shop versus having another organization that has to approve and we're waiting on. So in that regard, we'll have a bit more control over the process internally, which is helpful to homeowners, and whether it be a replacement of a septic or a new build, if you will. But the good news is that as we have these building permits, like we didn't have an MPAC increase. I was just going over since 2016, the phase-in ended. I was just if you're really looking for something to do on Monday night, tune in to the council meeting. We'll be going over the audit figures. I believe the actuals were our levy went up by around 500,000, I believe. And that was strictly through building, because we didn't get any phase in because they didn't change the value. So if you think about that in 1 year, and we've also had seen a decrease in the casino assessment as well during that point in time. So, you know, there's a lot going on here, and the building department has been full out for quite some time. Not to mention that every time somebody comes in for a building permit, there has to be a zoning review, a site review, whether it's from a desktop or not. And this all takes time, and there's only so many hours in a day. So it's been quite a lot. Any other staff needing to, maybe the clerk wants to speak to the election that's coming up?
Thank you. So you are more than welcome to visit our municipal election webpage. It's 22 municipal elections, provides all important dates and information for candidates and voters. One date I would like to mention that's coming up is the start of the nomination period, which is Monday, May 2nd. So everything that you need in terms of forms and information is available on our website, and you can feel free to contact me if you have any questions.
Excellent. So please encourage those who are interested in municipal government to go to that website, and should they feel that they want to take on some extra work, please have them put their name in the ring. So any other staff update? Okay, we'll go on to council update. I will be brief because I think I've just dumped most of what's coming up on you. But one thing that I won't talk about the details of the audit that's coming forward, but I have to say that I'm extremely proud of the Treasury Department and the senior management team here at the municipality over the past 4 years. When the audit comes forward on Monday, you'll be able to see the details, but we are in a much better, stable financial position, which will allow us to complete a number of the large projects that are coming up. As everybody is aware, the fire station that will need to be built at the corner of 32 and 15, as well as the Ivy Lee Wharf restoration and redo. The other exciting part of that, obviously, is we're going to have public parking in the middle of Ivy Lee, which has never been the case, which will hopefully be a real benefit to those visiting, whether it be visiting friends and family on the islands, or I believe there is a new individual who's doing private boat tours down there, so they could pick up at the Ivy Lee dock and they could park in the public parking. And anybody who's driven down Ivy Lee, parking is an issue. It's very tight roadway in through there, and a beautiful little gem in our township crown, if you will. And obviously with the provincial election coming up, one of the other things that's going to be on the agenda for the Monday night meeting is discussion in regards to election signs. Technically, the way the election act is written, or the guidelines, is that once you file your nomination papers, you can start putting up signs, which, if you think about it, the election is until October 24th, which is a very long period of time. Some of the concerns that were voiced at council was that it's also straddling a provincial election. So there's confusion that can happen. But I'll be honest, my personal concern is just waste in the road allowances and stuff, where signs blow down, people steal them, pick them up, throw them away, what have you. And, you know, it would be a real disservice to this township to have a bunch of signs that are just sort of haphazardly not standing up just because of the length of time they're there. So there is a report coming to council about discussion of limiting the sign time during the writ period, once nominations close, and that will be up for discussion and debate. So if you have any feelings or thoughts about that, please feel free to share it with your counselor. And there's lots of things going on at county. I could go on for forever on that. But one of the main themes that we're hearing is the challenges with the road network in all of the 10 municipalities. The county roads are in need of some attention. There's supposed to be the roads needs analysis has been done. We're waiting for the plan that goes with that, and I'm hoping to see that by the fall. I have been speaking with the CAO in regards to that, because I know that our County Road 3 alone, we also have some issues along the Rockfield Road, the Warburton Road, and you know, the county network is starting to age. And County Road 43, which is in North Grenville, which is a massive project that the county is taking on, is taking up a lot of time and energy. So, but we can't do it to the detriment of everything else. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think I recall you saying at some point, and I was in a meeting, it probably was this meeting, that your hope was that council would re-examine their attitude towards debt.
Right. Yep. That's true. What would you like to ask about that?
So so would that mean that the township would consider accepting debt to pay for their share of roads?
So are you talking in the context of county, or are you talking just in the context of the infrastructure that we own as a municipality?
As a municipality.
Okay. So one of the things and one of the challenges that we've faced as a council is that we've managed to not have a whole lot of debt all these years, which is definitely a positive thing. We haven't had to carry at great interest rate or great cost. Having said that, there's a couple of things that over the years have sort of crept up on us, whereas a lot of buildings and some road work has been neglected, which only then increases the cost to complete it at this point in time. So the big thing that this council has become aware of, and that's mainly because of Kate Tyndall, our director, our treasurer, she sort of has put it in a context that the people who use the asset, so the taxpayers of the day, sometimes it makes more sense to finance it, to have them pay for it through an operating budget, because capital projects come out of reserves usually. But if we finance, those finance payments come out of operations. So there's a balance there. The good news is that as we've worked hard to get on a more solid financial footing without and becoming less dependent on the casino, we will hopefully have a good chunk of the funds we'll need to fund the infrastructure projects that are coming up. Having said that, there won't be enough to pay for it all. So we can debenture part of it, all of it. It really comes forward on a recommendation from the treasurer. The best way to explain it to the average consumer is that you can't save fast enough to buy a house. So you have to finance a house to pay for it. Able point of view, as long as the interest rate is reasonable and can be carried through our operating budget and it makes sense. And that's a discussion that has to come to council. That's not a unilateral thing that the treasurer makes on her own. But I would say that we've learned a lot about finance over the last 4 years, and very fortunate to have the finance staff that we do. That's put us in this position.
Thank you.
Council, any other council update? Am I missing anything, ladies? Looking at Katie. No. Okay. Any other business? No other business? Go ahead.
Just, and we can't make a motion here, but just, this committee has been so admirably led by Catherine Graham, who lost her husband last week. And if there's any way that we can, as a committee, express our condolences to our chair.
I believe that we can definitely make that happen. I will say that on behalf of the municipality, there was a donation made in his memory to the St. Lawrence Medical Center, as the wishes were. And we do thank Catherine for all of her time and attention. And I know that this would be a very difficult time for the family. But I think I can handle that. And right after the meeting, we'll have a quick discussion. So we do express our condolences to Catherine Graham and her family for the loss of Andy, affectionately known as. So Andy was a very strong supporter of the St. Lawrence District Medical Center, both him and Catherine. So the donation will be put to good use to fund the community support that they do. Important. Any other business? Seeing none, there's no formal adjournment, if you will, but I'm glad that we were able to have the discussion. The hope would be is that when we have a full slate as of May, whether Catherine will be coming back. If not, then we'll be appointing Ray at that point in time. Once we have quorum, just so that we have a vice chair to continue on. Lucky guy. But if there is anything from this meeting that you have further questions or comments about, obviously Katie and Community Business Services, Marty Venditti and Director of Planning and the clerk are happy to answer any. Chris, you have a question?
No, I'm just stretching.
Just stretching. Okay. Chris is just stretching, so he doesn't have his hand up. But anyways, thank you for everybody for your time and attention. And we'll see you at the May meeting. Unless there's something sooner than later, if there is a need, but otherwise we'll be meeting the last week of May. Okay.
Thank you.